All right, I just wanted to get on here. We're a couple of days in to EA college football, and it got me thinking. We know 2K is coming out with their college basketball game. We know there's been some mixed reviews with the EA release, and I just want to come on and get some free games with 2K. I'm an avid player of the game. Been playing it for 13 plus years. I'm in the college basketball space. So I feel like I got a decent grasp on both sides of the world. I mean, clearly I started this YouTube channel playing video games, something that I do on the side on my free time, which if you know you work in college athletics, you don't get much of. So, 2K, if you're out there and you're listening, I'm gonna tag you and everything. I'm gonna put this under your videos. I want to make sure that you hear everything that I'm about to talk about. I'll talk over it. So first things first, like we talked about, the early release thing. We know that EA has seen some mixed reviews with this release that they had, and they shouldn't be blamed. It's really on us as the consumer. They essentially finessed us into paying to be the beta testers. So we got the game almost a week early. I mean, whenever has that happened on a pre-release? In the pre-release back in the day when you used to get the joint from 2K or whatever it was, like, that was just the day before. Like, you just got a day extra than everybody else, maybe two. But now we've gotten to the point where you get it a week before, 2 weeks before, you get a beta, you get this, that, and the third. It's too much. And we just paid $150 to essentially get on an early version of the college football game just to tell them what's wrong with it so that they can go back and fix it. Now, some of you may not see anything wrong with that. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I paid the $150. So, I'm going to get the early version of the game. That's just how I am. Like, I want to play it when I can play it. But 2K, you have a chance to capitalize on the poor release of this game. A lot of people are complaining about this game. I see video after video mentioning the fact that this game is not good, whatever, that it's become a Madden skin, this, that, and the third. 2K, you got a chance to kind of right the ship, and I think that you should take advantage of the situation. And you wanted the basketball game. You fought EA for the sole rights to have the basketball game. You convinced people that you already have the infrastructure to make a good game. So you have to come out and prove it. That it's as simple as that. I've got like 8 pages of notes. I've been typing this up for like 2 days. So if you hear me flipping pages, I'm sorry. But I have confidence that 2K is going to make a good basketball game. They are, like they said, they've already had it. They've made a college basketball game in the past. They've done bits of college in the 2K games with you playing your My Career. They've kind of given that to us and taken it away and given it back to us. But I have confidence that they'll make a good basketball game. I think where people are concerned with 2K is the microtransactions and the My Team stuff. It's going to be there. Get over it. There's going to be, microtransactions are going to be all over the game. There's nothing that you can do about that. You're going to pay VC to upgrade your character. You're going to do this, that, and the third. And here's the thing. Everybody's going to make a character to go to college in their My Career version on the college basketball game. But most of you are going to try and be one and done anyway. So who cares? You're going to try and get your guy as good as you can for the 1 year. Go into the draft and import your player into 2K, which is a feature that they should add, and I'll probably mention again later on. But you're going to deal with microtransactions. Having to complain about microtransactions with 2K and EA and these things, college football had 2 great years of being a pretty low microtransactions game. I think I've seen recently. I haven't touched Road to Glory, but I think I've seen recently that there's some transactions in there that people aren't very happy about. And I just think that it's been there. It's been years since. When's the last? We haven't had a game without microtransactions since you got the ability to connect Wi-Fi and join teams, or join parties and connect with your friends and play online. You haven't done that since we got the ability to do that. So it's just a thing that I don't understand why people complain about. It's been what it's been for the past couple of years. And yeah, I mean, but my biggest concern outside of the microtransactions is it's got to feel like a college basketball game. Like right here, what you guys are seeing is just 2K with some college basketball paint on top of it. We can't have that. That can't be the college basketball game that we get, which is slated apparently for 2027. So it's creeping up. I mean, they may push the date back. They may not. I don't know. I know they've been sending the truck out to get a couple of face scans, this, that, and the third. I haven't been at a university where they've gotten the face scans, but, I'm hoping that there's over 100 and something schools in the game. I think that's what they've said, but I'll get into that a little bit later. In college, I mean, the defense is more aggressive. You're limiting paint touches a little bit more. Like, the paint is compacted. In the NBA, you're way more spaced out than you are in college because teams don't want to help in on great shooters, which is why they're in the NBA. And college is a little bit different. That either the shooter's not that great or they want to see if you're that great. And then they make an adjustment. But most of the time, they're trying to prevent you from driving it. They're pressing up the court. They're having different presses based on what you make. Like there's a whole different lot of schemes that don't go on in the NBA that go on in college. And 2K has to be able to emulate that. And 2K has to be able to emulate that, like, realistically. For instance, if they're a heavy pressing team or a heavy pressing coach, every team that coach goes to should press. It doesn't have to do with the color or the team. It doesn't have to do with the logo of the team. It has to do with the coach. It's the coach's philosophy, and that should stick all the way throughout wherever they are in 2K. I'm hoping that there's real coaches in the game. I'm hoping we see a coach carousel type of thing that we could get from EA college football. But the team can't feel like every team can't feel the same because it's not the same. There's over 300 teams in college basketball. I know we're not going to get all those for the first game, but even still, getting 150 to 200, whatever the case may be, you have to make every team feel different. They can't all feel the same. I even think that all the teams feel the same in 2K. But some would argue that the NBA is that way, that they all play the same. Or that the little things that they do may not be that much different than the next team. Or, like OKC is a heavy, aggressive defensive team. But not everybody in the NBA is an aggressive defensive team. So, that's my biggest worry. But, a lot of people are going to talk about the teams, how there's only slated to be about 100 or so teams are rumored. I hear what they're saying. Like, prove that it'll sell and we'll put more teams in it. Now, arguably, the consumers is like, we'll put more teams in it and you'll sell more games. It's going to be a never-ending battle. I think people are going to buy it no matter what they put in it. But my suggestion is that they, try to make it as at least halfway. I mean, if you look at college football, I know they get a pass because it's all the FBS schools, but there's still a chunk of schools out there that are FCS, and you don't get to play as them. And in the college football games of the past, you got to play as them regardless of level. I know a lot of rules have changed, a lot of things have changed as far as that, but wouldn't it be nice to not have all these recruits disappear in EA? Because there's no schools for them to go to. There's no FCS schools. Like, if we had FCS schools, all those recruits would find a home. You wouldn't have disappearing recruits. When you cut a player, he wouldn't disappear. I know it doesn't happen every year, but for some players, they disappear off the map. Some players do end up finding a new team. As far as expecting them to have over 300 colleges in the first game, I think it's a little ridiculous. Especially if we want to have a game as soon as possible. And I think that that's been the goal. I think that 2K wants that to be the goal. I think that's what they've sold the schools that they're participating with as the goal. I mean, if we're talking about over 300 schools, we're talking about 15 players or so a team, that's almost 5,000 players in a single game. And I know college football has managed to do more than that, but again, that's only the FBS level. Like, college basketball is different in that sense where, like, everybody plays in the same tournament and you have to win XYZ to make it to the tournament. They've even expanded the total tournament number now. So it is a little bit different, and I understand the college basketball frustration with that. Like, people are saying that because you won't have as many small teams, like, you're not going to get the Cinderella feel. Well, they haven't even told us what teams are officially going to be in it. We know a couple of them because we've seen the tents or whatever they put up there at some of them. Obviously, your Dukes, your Michigan States, your Tennessees. Your Michigan's gonna be in, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know that who's gonna be in there, but like they haven't really told us everybody that's gonna be in there. So I think it's a little unfair to let EA slide with this, and I know some people don't, and I know it's a different game, but the reality is it's too hard to kind of get all those in one game. I think people would be just excited to have a college basketball game again, and the ones that care about it will play, and the ones that don't care about it won't play, even if they put all the teams in there. And the biggest thing with these college basketball games is they went away before the college football games. The college football games had another 4 years or so after the college basketball games stopped being made. And it was because they were selling so poorly. But that's because they didn't create the atmosphere, because there was no real players. There's nobody for you to like hone in on. And I know the college football game, it was similar at the time. There was no quote-unquote real players, but it's a little bit different when you're shuffling in over 100 players a year versus 15 on each team, and then you're shuffling in 3 or 4 guys. Like, you have to build a familiarity with some of those guys. I mean, I know 2K seems like they're saving money on the front end, but they want to see how the game's going to perform, and I think that's on us to buy a good game, and 2K to make a good game for us to buy. Like I said, it's easier for college football to get away with just using the FBS schools. And, college basketball is built on upsets. McNeese beat Clemson, Oakland beating Kentucky. I mean, that's just a few recent examples. I mean, how 2K handles this will be a big part of it. And having only 100 teams is not enough. Like, if now 72 make the tournament, which I hope they do a good job branding, I hope they do a good job presenting. Post-game, mid-game, pre-game interviews and stuff like that, like your Shaqs, your Kennys, your Clark Kellogg's, like, they have to be in the game. Like, there's no shortcuts with that. And maybe you get a pass year one because you're trying to get the game out, whatever. But listen, the presentation there has to be on point, because if it's not, a lot of people will be disappointed, and you won't even convince them to make the next game. I mean, I'm strictly talking about like dynasty modes here. I'm not really talking about the career modes yet. Like, I know I mentioned a little bit, but I'm not getting into all that yet. Right now, I want to strictly focus on gameplay and dynasty mode, because that's the things that I enjoy. That's the reason why I built this channel, because when that game drops, I want to be the one to get it out there. So 2K, if you're listening, if you made it this far, I want to be involved in the process of making this game, because I'm in the space. I play the game. Like, there's a lot of us out there, but I'm making a video telling you what you need to put in the game. So, I just hope they include some mid-majors. You know what I'm saying? Like, they should have every single Power 4, and they should have the Pac-12, the Big East, the American, the Mountain West. I mean, that's 111 teams right there. You can argue that they should have some more, but I think if you have those conferences up to start, like, I think that's good enough for now. I mean, we're just going to have to wait on getting the VCU Rams in A10 or the Liberty Flames in Coosa, like, or my McNeese Cowboys out of the Southland. We're just going to have to wait until the next game. Like, it's okay for this first game to not have every single team involved because of likeness situations. I mean, but 2K does do a good job of customization. Like, they've always done that. They've always done better than EA and Madden and college football in that area. So maybe they give us the opportunity to import teams. Maybe they give us the opportunity to fill up our league with every team that there is. Maybe they give us the opportunity to do skins and stuff like that to make the teams feel real. Or maybe they just give us a random 200 and some teams to put in the game to make it feel like something until it's not. I never really know how 2K is going to approach that. And I think it's gotten a little weirder now with the NIL, because even like in recent 2Ks, since the NIL started, like, the draft classes that you import won't have the player's full real name. Like, you'll have to go and edit it in, because I think people are afraid of legal obligations, which, I mean, they should be. But, I feel like that's the best option that we can get with. You could argue that they could take the school's likeness, but make the players completely different. But I think that's what got them in trouble the first time. I mean, I don't think that anybody wants to touch that right now and risk the legal consequences and things like that. There's lawsuits galore going on right now in college sports. So, like, they want to give us a good game and avoid any other pitfalls with that. And I don't blame them. I mean, that's how it should be. But now, getting into like the actual gameplay or actual dynasty stuff, like, when it comes to recruiting, I think overall 2K, did a good job with their recruiting model in the previous college basketball games. I haven't played it in a long time, but I've seen some creators do it in recent videos and stuff like that since they've made new rosters for the past couple seasons. But I mean, I've heard this idea from my guy Jaden on college football. Like, if they're only gonna have 107 teams, don't even give us the bad recruits. Like, not quote unquote bad, but like, don't give us the 2 and 1 star recruits or like unranked recruits. Like, save that. If you're only going to put 100 and some teams in the game, just save that part. Like, just give us the 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. Let the transfer portal be crazy, and don't even make those teams. No team. I shouldn't say no team. Most teams that are in the conferences that I mentioned aren't gonna get 2 and 1 star players. Like, there may be a couple in the Mountain West, or maybe a couple in the American, but outside of that, like, every other school in the conferences I named is not gonna go after those guys in real life. So, I mean, 2K should probably go this route. There's no reason to have that many low recruited guys, and then they're just gonna be floating around. And basketball is a little bit different when it comes to recruiting rankings. So, just feel like that's the best way to go with that. And when I'm talking about recruits, like, give me their accolades. What did they do in high school? Were they McDonald's All-American? Should they have been one, but they didn't get picked? Did they compete with Team USA? Where did they place when they were on the team? Did they get gold, bronze, or silver? Were they invited to certain camps? Jason Tatum, Chris Paul, NBPA. Did they play EYBL? How'd they do in EYBL? Or whatever they're going to have to call it in this game. Give me a background on the players that I'm recruiting. I don't think that this should cost recruiting points or whatever like type of system that they'll use. I just feel like this should be something that I see in like a news tab or on the players tab, or like every week I get an update on the players that I'm interested in, and if they completed in these camps or invited to these things. I just think it helps with immersion. Now, obviously, I don't expect all this to be in the very first game. It's just ideas for the longevity of the college basketball game, because I want to see a good product. And I want to play a good game. Like, I really do want to play a game where I feel like people are really going to enjoy it. College basketball is bigger than it was when they were releasing games before. Like, more people are excited about it. More people are paying attention to it. It's about more than just the upsets. I mean, to be honest, like, how many upsets are we really going to get now? Like, I know we got a couple of them, but, like, we're not getting nearly as many as we used to in the past, because all the good players are getting paid to go play at good schools. Like, There's no slipping of the talent-wise to go into lower levels, out of high school anyway. So, but also, like, you got to give us the recruiting rankings. In real life, there's so many different options. There's on 3, 2, 4, 7. You could go down the list. In the first game, it doesn't have to be the real thing, but like, just give us some 2K version like you do with the draft boards. Like, you give us a 2K draft board. I think you give us 2 other real ones after that, but like, do something like that so that we can see the difference in recruiting rankings and what these people think, and stuff like that. Like, don't make it a dead giveaway which player is really, really good, but obviously, like, the top 10 to 15 teams or people are probably going to agree on and stuff like that. But as we get deeper into the class, like, you need to see where people are ranked. Like, maybe those guys that aren't ranked, quote unquote, and are not 3 stars, like, maybe that's the route that you go instead of putting in 2 and 1 stars. But I need the recruiting to have the same immersion and feel like that. But, I just feel like you need to have that type of immersion. I don't think EA has capitalized on that. And I think that's the biggest thing for 2K, is they have to take the parts where EA hasn't capitalized on their college game and their Madden game and really exploit them when they release this college basketball game. And I know people are going to be upset, like a DLC type deal. I'm not upset about that. I don't think 2K will do that. I think they'll make you pay full price for 2 different games. But I'm not upset if it's a DLC in the next NBA 2K whatever. And they're actually supposed to be releasing some type of news in 14 days. They keep like teasing it on social media, so I'm curious to see what that'll be about. Maybe it is some college basketball news. Hope so. But of course, you got to bring in the player archetypes, and you should have these be adaptable, I think, like they are in NBA 2K. I do think that the NBA 2K archetypes are a little wordy. Like, they can be too many different things. Like, Why is my guy slashing, glass cleaning, shooting? Like, just dumb that down. Like, it doesn't need to be that complex. And honestly, most of the time, college players aren't all that dynamic anyway, unless they're, the one and dones, AJ DeBances, Darren Peterson type deals. Like, there's no reason to have all that going on in the in that sense. 2K needs to have their own version of the deal breakers that EA has. The deal breakers are cool. I think there's some tweaks to them that they could have. Most of them, some of them are just weird. Like, we don't even recruit guys in college football with a play style deal breaker because it's so janky. You don't even recruit guys with the what's the other one? People don't really recruit, like proximity to home, like stuff like that. Like, I think that matters. Like, I think certain recruits do care about proximity to home and things like that. But I don't think it's as big of a factor as EA likes to pretend that it is. Most college basketball teams play the same way year after year, and it reflects who their head coach is. I touched on this a little bit at the beginning. It reflects on who their head coach is from year to year. Like, in EA, if you have a game where you don't throw it to your receivers all that much, like, the playing style deal breaker is going to go down. Well, man, it was one game. They were pressuring all my receivers. All I could do was run. So, like, there has to be some context there. And throughout the course of a season, I'm going to be better. Like, my receivers are going to be fine. And just like throughout the course of the season in basketball, my team's going to play the same way pretty much all the way through the season. Now it's a matter of who can stop it and who can't. But like I said, that playing style deal breaker, I'm sure it's going to be a somewhat of a thing in the college basketball game. I just want to make sure that's reflected to the coach. The coach should have his things that he reflects that players like or don't like. And I think just because you don't meet a player's quote-unquote deal breaker, I don't think there should be like a lockout situation. I think in college football it works because, like, obviously you can't go after every recruit. But I think in basketball the recruiting pool is a little bit smaller, and like, you should be able to kind of coerce your way into talking to a recruit, even if some things don't match up or whatever. So, like, if there's, like, for instance with that, if there's a post player that is obviously a dominant post player, but the coach in his career hasn't had a dominant post player, that doesn't mean the post player should ignore him. It just means that the post player should hear him out. Maybe that coach really wants to pursue him because he is a dominant post player and he's never had one before. So, like, maybe he wants to be the go-to guy. Like, there's just certain things that you can't ignore when it comes to recruiting like that. Like, recruits should have a top 3 list, see where they can fit in, and you should be able to convince the player, even if they don't fit in the categories, but especially if they do. We have that in EA college football with the hard sell, soft sell, sway type deal. I think there should be a little bit more immersion with that. Like, I feel like you should be able to go on the road and, like, kind of have some in-person conversations. I'm not trying to have too many cutaway scenes because that gets annoying to me, but it should feel a little bit more immersive than just a guy on a piece of paper that you're kind of looking at. And same thing with the spending, like the points. Different schools should have different hours, like, of recruiting or points or however you want to put it. But that should increase as you get better, or basically as you get better. As your coach gets better, as your team gets better, that type of stuff should increase. So with that, in recruiting comes the transfer portal. It's obviously huge, right? In every single college sport, pretty much. Obviously, football and basketball make the headlines. But 2K has to reflect this part, I think, more importantly than in any other thing that I've talked about so far. If the transfer portal sucks, like, people are going to be mad. Like, your immersion gets all messed up and your dynasties get all messed up if the portal doesn't act how it does in real life. And I think the portal in EA has gotten a little weird. The College Football 27, the one they just released, they said something about I haven't made it to the transfer portal yet in any of my series, but the transfer portal, they said, was going to be more NIL focused. I don't think that's realistic. Like, I think that there are people who enter the portal for money. I think they don't think that they're going to get enough money at their school, so they transfer and they go get money elsewhere. But not everybody's transferring for money. The kid from Duke that didn't play isn't transferring for money. He's transferring to get on the court. So like you have to be able to tell which player is which. It can't all be about money. It can't all be about like the NIL points that you're going to be able to spend. And this kind of goes back to what I said. Like EA or 2K has to take advantage of every single situation they have to capitalize on what EA didn't do. Like they should be reading everything that people are saying about EA so that when their college basketball game drops, there's not that much to say. Like it just has to be that way. If you really want to dominate the market, prove why you deserve the naming rights. You have to go out and make sure that you get a quality game out from the jump. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Like, one thing that I do like that EA does is, like, I like when a player enters the portal with some schools in mind. I think that's a little realistic. I don't like the fact that, like, you can't even talk to some of them because your mind can be changed. I mean, EA only gives us 4 weeks for the transfer portal. We know that that's not exactly how it goes, but that's what EA gives us. And I don't think that it's fair to kind of be locked out of some top, especially the top talent guys, like, maybe they do know where they're going, but some of these lower guys, like, there's no way you know where you're going when you enter the portal. That's just not realistic. If you're transferring from ECU and you don't really know where you're going to go, like, there's no reason why you should be locking folks out. Because what happens in EA, some dudes lock dudes out, and then they don't even end up on a roster, and they get kicked out of the game. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But I think there should be a way where, like, players keep tabs on you and you keep tabs on players. Like for instance, if, you know, a player that we really like or that my creative coach really likes and we have a good game versus him, maybe that player enters the portal and has a more of an inkling to listen to what I have to say or something like that. Maybe I'm already in their top 5 or maybe I'm not in their top 5, but because we had a good performance versus them, he's even more willing to listen to what I have to say. Oh, back to, like, kind of the high school players and recruiting. Like, there has to be a way to retain some of these players that go under-recruited. You know, like, in college football, these guys will disappear. I've mentioned it a bunch of times now. But that's not real. Like, that doesn't happen for the most part. Most of these guys don't just disappear. Like, they want to play their sport throughout their college career, whether that means they have to transfer down to D2, JUCO, whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that 2K needs to open the floodgates and put in D2 schools, D3 schools, and stuff like that, because obviously that's a whirlwind. But we've got JUCO situation in EA. I just don't think they executed it well. Like, those players that go under-recruited should transfer to a JUCO and then be right back in the transfer portal the next year. And obviously we should be able to see their whole transfer history. I don't like how EA doesn't let me see their whole transfer history even if they didn't play. If the kid went somewhere and redshirted, I should be able to see that. If the kid went JUCO, I should be able to see that. There's not enough, like, things for me to see about a player that I'm trying to recruit in EA. And I hope that 2K comes out with a better version of this. JUCO basketball, I think, and I could be wrong with this, has a much more effect on NCAA Division I college basketball than JUCO has on college football. Like, the only college football, and I know I'm wrong in this, but the only prominent college football player I can think of that went JUCO was Cam Newton. And guess why he went to JUCO? Because he transferred from Florida, wanted to play, and went JUCO and was one of the best college quarterbacks that we saw at Auburn, became the number 1 pick in the draft. Like, there's stories like that you miss because you don't allow that part of the game to be to mean something. People don't even recruit the JUCO recruits in EA college football. Like, they don't even look at them. I know I don't. Because you're not getting a JUCO freshman, you're getting JUCO juniors and seniors, and, like, you only get 1 year with them, and he's not even a good player. So, like, why would I waste my time and my hours and now my NIL trying to recruit a player like that? So 2K has to do a good job with that, especially because college basketball, I feel like, is way more impacted by the JUCO. And there should be, like, a JUCO board. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should be able to keep tabs on JUCO stats and see what players are doing good. Just kind of like, it's kind of like the G League. Like, you can see all the G League stats and all the stuff like that, who got called up, who whatever. Like, you should be able to do the same thing with JUCO. I'm not saying label out a bunch of JUCOs, make them generic, or just say plain old JUCO. That doesn't bother me. Like, you can have all some JUCOs in one conference. I really don't care on that. I just need JUCO to be something that's actually utilized. And EA doesn't do a good job of this, and maybe it's just because JUCO doesn't have the big of effect on Division I college football. But, you know, I just feel like that helps. And you go through development in JUCO. That should be reflected in the basketball game. You go through development in JUCO. You go through development through your redshirting. Like, there should be no negative to going to JUCO. You should be able to still develop. I'm not saying you develop as much. You should be able to develop as much as you do after going from your freshman to your sophomore year playing Division I. But you should be able to have the opportunity to develop when you go to JUCO, because that's realistic. That's why people go to JUCO. You get reps. You get the ability to play more games. That helps your development long term. The next thing in recruiting I want to talk about is you got to open up the international waters. You can't have this game and there be no international college players. It's just not realistic. I know they're going to change the rules now. We probably won't see too many 23-year-old freshmen. But you should still allow us to recruit overseas. It should be its own category. And the thing, like, don't just give me Hawaii or whatever the case may be and call it a day. Like, there's international players in college football too, and I don't think we get a good look at that. I mean, obviously there's way more international basketball players than football players because they all play soccer. But, like, let me go to Cameroon and find the next Joel Embiid. Like, let me go to this obscure country and find a really good talent. Like, or let me go to this obscure country and find a bust, like, that I think looks good or something like that. You have to be able to recruit overseas. It can't just be all the 50 states and Canada and Mexico or whatever the case may be. Like, it should be everywhere. Next, you got to give us the dynamic recruiting lines. EA has failed to deliver on this yet again. I feel like it was something they had in the past, and they haven't brought it back to the new games. Well, 2K, guess what? You got a chance to do it. So, pipelines are in every single college recruiting, whatever the case may be. It's based off your school, it's based off your coach, it's based off a lot of different things. And to be honest with you, I don't think the EA respects the coach pipelines enough. And I also don't think it's fair that EA only allows one pipeline on your coach, because that's not realistic either. Coaches are known for dominating certain areas. Like, that's just what it is. It should be reflected wherever that coach goes. Should give a boost to the school pipeline. Obviously, his pipelines are what they are. And if I have to use points to upgrade those pipelines, sure. But I prefer that it's more about the players that I retain. If I continue to get 5-star after 5-star out of Texas, then that should be reflected. And obviously, like, there's a regional thing with that. Like, EA does a good job of breaking up Texas, does a good job of breaking up, like, New York and some other places. It shouldn't just be like I can dominate the whole state of Texas. That's not realistic either. It should be definitely regional based or city based, or I don't know how you want to do that, but that's another thing that I feel like 2K could definitely harp on. And I think that you should be able to kind of start off with something that you're really good at, and if you end up recruiting really good in a state that you weren't familiar with because you're in that state for a long time, then that should be reflected too. If I'm known off the bat as a really good recruiter in Indiana, and I go to a school in Florida, well, I'm spending a bunch of time in Florida. Don't you think that my recruiting is going to get better in Florida too? So, like, you have to make that part make sense too, because it is, and that's realistic. And that's the base. That's the thing that I feel like a lot of people miss with some of these games, is like the realism. Like, what makes it real? Obviously, we're getting this game with only 100-something teams, so they say. But, like, you got to focus on what makes the game as real as possible with what you have. And certain things about EA's college football game doesn't harp on the realism enough. It still feels like a video game. Of course, it's going to feel like a video game. But even still, on this new EA college football, like, my receivers should be getting way more open than they are. Like, college football players make mistakes all the time. Way more mistakes than pros. And it's the same with basketball. You should be able to feel the difference between playing your NBA 2K game and playing your college basketball game. Still on recruiting, let's talk about recruitable age. In EA's college football, you can only recruit what's essentially high school seniors. They don't explicitly say it, but you recruit a kid for a season, and the next season they're on your team. Well, it's a little bit harder to kind of dive into deeper parts of high school when you're talking about thousands of football players. But in 2K, basketball players, you should be able to recruit as soon as they're recruitable age. So, like, if I'm harping on the kid since he was a sophomore, like that should be reflected in the recruiting battles or recruiting cycles or making sure that I have enough scholarships for him when he is ready to commit or XYZ, like, or come to campus rather. Like, let me play the long game with these recruits. Let me build a relationship with them, their high school coaches, their parents, their AAU coaches. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be able to establish those relationships and make it feel like you are doing something to build those in the game. And in that same breath, let's have some of these high school coaches or AAU coaches that I built relationship. Like, they start hitting me up about players that they have that they think we need to recruit. They could be an under-recruited player. They could be a player that they have a good connection with that's a really good player, and they want us to make sure that they know they have a good connection. Like, they don't all have to be good players, but it allows certain players to be on your mind when you go through scouting, and it makes it fun. It makes it more immersive. Like, it makes the recruiting part of it just feel a little bit more realistic. You know, maybe you discovered a talented kid early and recruit him early, but late in his recruitment, a better opportunity comes and he goes there instead. If I'm a small school like, I don't know, Texas Southern, and I'm recruiting a kid really early, and by the time he gets to his senior, the Texas Longhorns want him. Well, guess what? 9 times out of 10, pretty much 10 times out of 10, the Texas Longhorns are going to get that one. Because that's just, I mean, you're just not working with the same ballpark. You got the Texas Longhorns in the SEC, the Texas Southern is in the HBCU. Obviously, we won't be getting Texas Southern in this video game, but like, if I'm a school in the Mountain West, I shouldn't be able to overly compete with the SEC when it comes to recruiting. Now, if I build my school up and I build my conference up because I'm so good, then yeah, I mean, I should be able to do that too. And I mean, that kind of ties into the transfer portal. That's how some of these smaller teams or smaller schools get good really quick, because they dive into the transfer portal. They get some of these high major quote unquote rejects or high major players that didn't really play as much, and they let them loose in low major, and they end up transferring a year later, or they end up staying and win a couple more conference championships. Like, that's just how it goes, and that's how that should be reflected in the video game as well. And when it comes to scouting, you know, I need to know important things about these players initially: height, weight, position, secondary position, tertiary position. You know, have me spend time on a player to find out their skills, whether it's going to practice, going to an AAU game, speaking with their high school coach or AAU coach to find out more about them as a person or XYZ. You know, if their high school or the USA event there or whatever it is that they compete at provides measurements, I should be able to see those. I should be able to see his wingspan, his hand size, that type of stuff. And obviously, if he goes to different camps, they're all going to be different sizes. And especially if we're talking about the throughout the years recruiting thing that I hope that they do. You know, the more I get to know a high school or a club team or whatever the case may be, the easier it should be to obtain information like height, weight, and whatnot. Or, I'm sorry, wingspan and stuff like that, because they're just going to be cool with me and give it to me, basically. You know, show me the stats from their high school games, all that stuff. So I need to know what they do basically all throughout high school. And with that, make me aware of the times I'm allowed to recruit. You know, there's a recruiting calendar that teams have to follow, and it should be reflected in the game. I feel like it's too easy to kind of recruit, and when not to recruit in EA college football. Make this part a little challenging. Make it so, you know, I have to think about when I can talk to a recruiter. Make it so that I have to think about some of the consequences of doing the wrong thing. Like, you got to give me more of the immersion. I know it may not be like what the NCAA or whatever wants to see, but like, we're not even calling it NCAA football anymore. We're calling it college. There's no NCAA affiliation with it. So, I don't know. I just feel like part of that with the realism, like, you should be able to do some of that stuff. And as far as it goes with retaining players, whether it's transfer portal or stuff like that, like your first chance loading into the game, you should be able to play with the roster that you choose. So like, if I create a coach and I go pick up Duke, I should be able to play with the players that are on Duke, because clearly that's why you started the roster or the dynasty and whatnot, and that's what you wanted to do. But every other time after that, if I start my dynasty as Duke and I take the job at, I don't know, what would you leave Duke for? Not much, but like, I don't know, let's say I leave Duke and I go to Illinois. I shouldn't start with a whole roster when I go to Illinois. Like, I should be able to talk to a couple players that I think may be interested or like maybe want to hear me out that are at Illinois, and that's probably it. Most of the time, they're just going to transfer because it's not their coach, it's not who they came to play for, and that's just not how it goes. Also, with that, I should be able to bring whatever players I want with me in the transfer portal. Like, it doesn't make any sense for me to recruit these kids all the way through. Let's say I recruit a kid and I only spend one season with them as a freshman. It makes no sense for me not to consider to bring him to my next school. Like, you at least have to consider it, because that's what happens in real life when coaches take different jobs. As this like pertains to the draft, every year we see players test the waters. We should feel that as the head coach of the program. Did we keep a roster spot open, or more importantly, did we save enough money to if he decides not to go to the league? It should fit the timeline of how the summer goes for college coach. Recruiting the players they need, and then maybe keeping a spot or two open for later down the line. You may have a player that's fringe NBA or is one good showing or bad showing away from leaving or staying with your college program. Like, we see it a lot. Like, Tyler Tanner from Vanderbilt enter the draft, and Vandy kept the spot open with him because that was their point guard. That was their guy. If they didn't have him, they didn't have him. You know what I'm saying? Like, with that, like, also, if they didn't have him, maybe they wouldn't be as good. And I have to feel that consequence too. If I leave a roster spot open for a really good player that then decides to go to the draft, I should feel the consequences of that too. Or I should feel the hustle to have to go and get a player out of the transfer portal or something like that. We're going to talk about importing NBA 2K and college basketball, because you got to be able to put your draft classes in there. You're going to be able to put your My Career Player in there. I have no worries about that. But you got to figure out a way to get these college basketball kids into the game. If you're the sole kind of guy behind it, I know there's probably contractual things with NBA and college or whatever the case may be, but you have everything that you need to import them. And I think maybe even if you have to wait a year or two to see if some of these guys end up not leaving, that should be. But you just got to be able to import it. People hate that you can't do it in EA 2K. There's again another opportunity for you to show that what you can do. I know there's probably some legal things there, but you got to figure that out. And every recruiting class, there's about 10 to 15 players that are one and done every year. Some that aren't even absolute locks. Like, we should be able to feel about this, talk to our players through the draft process. Have the draft process on top of their college stats impact whether or not they decide to go to the draft, and not let it be solely based on overall. Like, on EA, I think EA is probably trying to do a better job of this, but if you're, a 90-something overall, like, you're pretty much always going to the draft in EA college football, at least in the previous ones. But I don't think it should be that way. Like, if I have a 80 overall basketball player and teams really like him, like, he's probably going to go to the draft. If he's a guaranteed first-round pick, he's probably going to go to the draft, regardless of what his overall says. If he had good stats, you know what I'm saying? Like, his stats and stuff like that should reflect that type of deal. I've been talking about kind of the coaching build within some of these other portions, but you got to be able to have a coach mode. There's got to be a coaching carousel. There's got to be a way for me to progress up the ladder and stuff like that. I have seen the college football or college basketball game of the past, and you could create a coach, but it didn't really feel all that immersive. There was a semi-coaching carousel, but it was pretty bare bones. Now, granted, it was 2008, 2007, whatever the case may be. But you gotta up that here. So I think 2K is gonna do a good job as far as that stuff goes. Hopefully that they, kind of see some of the good things that EA has done in that area, and like the ability to express interest in jobs. I just hope that they let us feel like a college coach a little bit. Like, college coaches have so many packed schedules that they, basically they have to make time to see their own families. They go to lunches, dinners, meetings with all different types of people, wear a bunch of different hats. They're personable, a disciplinarian, a shrink, a parent, a spouse. You know what I'm saying? They wear a minimum of 8 hats a day. And, I should feel that some way in the game. I'm not saying I got to go home and burp my baby or anything like that, but I am saying that I should be able to feel some of these pressures of being the head coach. I should have to go to lunch with the donor, even if it's just a click away screen. Like, I should have to go and try and raise money at certain events. I should have to go talk to our athletic director about about what we're doing to raise money. I should have to do certain things like that because that's what you do as a college head coach. And I don't think EA has capitalized on this enough. They tried to bring in the NIL system this year, but that's only the I think that should have been the last thing, to be honest. Like, we don't even have a way to prove that we're raising the money. Like, we can't even raise the money outside of hiring a staff member to do so. The game, depending on what school, you should feel like you're doing more than just coaching players you recruited. Every school is different. Like, some head coaches really get to focus on basketball, some don't. Or, like, it just depends on your situation. I'm not saying that 2K needs to fill up this game mode with side quests and things like that, because they've done that with my career, and in my opinion, it's completely ruined it. But I'm saying I should have moments like where a player comes to talk to me because something isn't going right at home and it's affecting their play on the court. Or I go to a player to make sure they're okay after consecutive abnormal practices or games. Like, I should feel like I'm actually leading a group of young men, and I should feel like I'm actually impacting their lives. Get it, it's just a video game, but I should feel some of those things, pressures of being a college basketball coach, on top of having to go raise money, on top of having to go do X, Y, and Z. If our school has a money issue, I should be able to go and raise that money. Maybe you answer a couple questions, like an interview, like a post-game interview type deal, and then, can ask for a donation afterwards or whatever. I should have to meet with my athletic director about budgetary expectations. I should have to go raise money by having other schools buy us to play games. I should know how much money I can offer other schools to come play us. College athletics is driven by money. The world is driven by money. The NIL piece has only made things and money like more prevalent, more out there. Like, all that stuff is just out and open. Like, colleges want money, players want money, people want money. Money makes the world go around. Sorry. But EA, has only scratched the surface of something like this, and I think 2K has a chance to make this a competitive piece between the two games. But like I mentioned a little bit, like, let me climb the ranks. I'm not saying I got to start as low as the team manager, but like, let me start as an assistant coach like you kind of do with offensive, defensive coordinators in college football, and just let me climb the ranks from there, and let me work on my coach's kind of abilities. Like, I should have a real impact on recruiting, scouting, on defense or offense, which allows your name to start to buzzing for head coach openings. You get your name known by what you decide to spend your points on in the news. Like, if my recruiting is a B+, my offense is a C-, and my defense is a C+, and I land a great recruiting class for my school, then I should be known as a great recruiter, which maybe doesn't land me a lead head job right away, but it gets me in the mix for higher level assistant jobs. Maybe I become the assistant coach at Kentucky after spending several years as an assistant coach at UTEP. So, like, certain things like that I should be able to feel and climb the ranks through as, you embark on your journey. With this and kind of going with your coaching development stuff, this should have a direct impact on player development. Player development is a huge piece. Like, right now in NBA 2K, you can't really do anything to affect your player's development. All it's going to do is going to be dependent on that potential grade, that A+ potential. Yeah, I think do away with that. I think I should have the direct impact on how my players are developed. I like how EA lets you spend coins or whatnot that you rack up throughout the season, and XP points and stuff like that, so that you can upgrade them when the time comes. 2K used to have this thing, I think they call it training camp or something like that, but basically, like, you would send a couple of players to XYZ and you'd see a bump in their attributes. Obviously, like they do with some things, they take it from us to make us miss it. So I hope that's one of those things that they, end up giving us back, because it's important in college. Development's important in college. That's what you're there for. I wouldn't be mad if they kind of went back to that training camp idea if they didn't give us the full customization of it. But, like, I like the way EA lets us progress our players, even if they try to give us a little bit of a cap on it, which obviously you can edit. And I'm not worried about 2K when it comes to customization. I think they'll do a good job of giving us full automation of our league. These dynasty modes are all about how much I'm able to impact my team. It's not about how much the CPU or the random number generator can affect my team. How much progression points a player gets should be a mix of how good my coach is at player development, but also how well that player has performed or practiced throughout the season. A kid that took a redshirt year should likely develop, but not as much as a kid that earned actual minutes on the court. Some players develop better under different coaches, so on and so forth. There should be a way for me to see that reflected in the game. I think players I obtain in the transfer portal should be subject to upgrading. I think in real life you get the opportunity to impact your transfers. Now, you don't get as much time as you get with the guys that have been with you multiple years. But, in football, look at the offensive tackle that LSU got from Colorado. He's already lost a ton of weight. You get your transfers for 4 months before the season starts. The game should be able to reflect that in some way. In basketball, at least, most times you have about 5 months with your new team, your new coach, whatever, before you even start playing the actual game. So development's going on there. You're not just staying the same for the most part. But I also have to do the things that help impact that. I have to have good practices. I have to spend time with the player. Certain things like that should also go into impacting their player development. I do end up climbing the ranks from an assistant coach and become a head coach. Obviously, you gotta let me hire my staff, let our abilities increase each other, and give me more points towards areas so that I can upgrade certain areas. Like if I hire an offensive coach, help me upgrade my offense, because that's how it should be. You learn a lot from the people around you, and I think that should be reflected in your game. Have me have, tasks like EA just showed us. And if I don't have those tasks, then my job becomes at risk. When I become a head coach, let my AD have clear expectations. It's not just about winning games. It's about revenue, bringing in money, the fan base. Obviously, winning games is the best answer for all that. But as a head coach, I should have the opportunity to meet these expectations or fail them. Let the media have opinions about me and my teams. Let fans galvanize around me or hate me entirely. You have to have a mix of some of this real-world immersion that EA has failed to kind of capitalize on in 3 years of the game. Make my playbooks matter. As an assistant, I should be crafting a playbook if my job is offense. I should be crafting a scheme if my job is defense. I should be learning certain parts of either side from a head coach, and I should be enhancing them on my coach creation. In NBA 2K, the playbooks aren't really utilized, which is fair. Most NBA teams run the same actions. They want to run fast. You want to do this, that, and the third. But in college, it's much more scripted. There's a lot more kind of baseline out of bounds, sideline out of bounds that goes in that NBA teams don't necessarily do. There's a play called almost every possession. So I should have a playbook that adapts to me. I should have a playbook that I take certain things from every coach that I've been around throughout my career. It could even be the full playbook. It's just certain things that should be a little bit more immersive. I'm not saying that you gotta go steal a real college team's playbook or anything like that, but I am saying that this should be something that they take a little bit more seriously, because I think the playbooks in college are a little bit more, or not a little bit more intense. I just think they're utilized more. I think NBA offenses have their reads, have their certain things that maybe college teams don't utilize as well. And last but not least, let me have an impact on my school. If I take a team like UTEP and I make the NCAA tournament, I should have a feeling of that. I should have a direct impact on my school. When you win a tournament game, your school gets money. When you make it to the tournament, your school gets money. My school should feel the impact of me making the tournament, being a good team, whether that's increased fans, increased funds, increased interest. There has to be a way for my team's impact to have a direct impact on my facilities, my weight room, my practice gym, my arena. Even if I don't see those changes actually physically in when I play the game, or when I choose to hop in a game, it has to impact something with my recruits. It has to be a better grade for them when they see it. It has to do something. There has to be more fans so players get more nervous on the free throw line or something like that. It has to have a direct impact on what is happening with my team. I think that's it. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I missed. I comment down below on some things that you guys want to see from the new college basketball game. I'm eager for it. That's what I started this channel for, trying to get a following for when the college basketball game drops. 2K, like I said, if you made it this far, please, please, please consider me to help you guys chime in. I'm giving y'all a free game right now. I'll give y'all a free game the whole entire time. To be honest, I don't care. I want a good college basketball game, and I want everybody to enjoy it. So please just make sure that you take a little bit of a listen to this. Skip through it. I don't care which parts you hear. Actually, I do want you to hear the recruiting parts. But outside of that, I hope everybody has a great day. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video. Put it out there so that 2K can see it and we have a good college basketball game. All right. Peace.